know. The new camera should be here tomorrow. See, we should have smoother and better quality video. I mean, the quality isn't the problem with this camera. The camera's, it's decent quality-wise. The frame rate is not that good. But yeah. Hello, I'm Otago Gaming HD, and tonight I saw Skin Trade. Yeah, this is a Magnet Blu-ray. Magnet has released a lot of pretty awesome films, along with Magnolia. I think that's the parent company. But they've released films like Chocolate, which I wish they had released the international cut, because apparently there's action missing and more story missing, which, that'd be interesting. They released Compliance through Magnolia, which that movie fucked me up. That's a disturbing movie that I think actually works for what it's going for. The Wave and the Quake, which are two of the best disaster films I've ever seen. The acting, the cinematography, the storytelling, the effects are some of the best I've ever seen, and those films were made for about $7 million each. Shows that you don't need a huge budget. But otherwise, I've always really liked this film. I've seen it twice now. I did want to get around to doing a video review and a written review, because I watched it before I started doing written reviews. I was doing ratings, but I wasn't doing written reviews yet. But yeah, I think this is definitely, if you're looking for something that will get you more into action, I'd say this is a pretty good choice. It's nothing too hard to handle. It is about human trafficking, so there are parts that are going to be a little bit disturbing, but I didn't think the film went overboard with that at all. And I do have some comments on some things the critics hated, because this movie does not get good reviews at all. It's lumped in with a lot of Dolph Lundgren's other direct-to-video films, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I've seen all of his direct-to-video films. There are some that look like they're going to be more painful than others, but of the ones I've seen, I've mostly thought they were at least decent or alright. But just writing this off as another cheap looking film, or saying that it's bad action or whatever, I don't want to hear that bullshit. I've seen bad action, sorry, I'm having a bit of a time tonight. But this film, made on a budget of $9 million. Now, this film looks, it is very well made. It is definitely, it's got nice cinematography. The musical score from Jacob Groth was pretty alright. Nothing spectacular, but it worked. The acting is pretty well done. Dolph Lundgren, I'll go through the actors. Dolph Lundgren, I dropped it. Dolph Lundgren, he's pretty good in the film. He has shown before that he can act in films such as Rocky IV. I'm trying to think of the other one. There was one that he was really good in. Silent Trigger. He was really good in that, and someday I'll do a video review on that. I've seen that movie 5 times by this point. This is definitely up there with Silent Trigger. Silent Trigger was one of the earlier direct-to-video films he did, and it's just more story-based than action-based, and the action is just fantastic. But yeah, Dolph Lundgren does good in this film. He shows an acting range. He shows sorrow when he needs to. He shows madness when he needs to show madness. Tony Jaa, I do kind of wish that they had done a bit more English training. I know there are a lot of critics that hated on his accent, or his not not great handle on the English language. I'm not going to pretend that he has a great handle on it. But I think that's kind of the same thing that people shit on Olga Kurylenko for, but Olga Kurylenko is still a pretty damn good actress, even with her accent still. But yeah, he was alright. Michael Jai White, he's not given a ton to do. He's kind of just there to be a pivotal point in the story. I'm not going to spoil that. Selena Jade, she's a bit up and down as well. She's a partner of Tony Jaa's character. Um, she's, I'm pretty sure she was Hong Kong American, so half and half. Peter Weller's in about 2 scenes. Now, I do really like Peter Weller, and he's good in his 2 scenes, but I do wish he was in the movie more. I really do. And Ron Perlman as the main villain. He plays a good villain. Uh, Even with some of the things he said lately, I'm not gonna really let that lessen my enjoyment of him. But even with some of the dumb things he said, I still enjoy him. But yeah, like, this is a film. It is not too long. It is 96 minutes long. It is it has a pretty fast pace. Once it gets going, it really gets going. And very well done action scenes. I don't remember noticing a ton of CGI, which is very nice, given that Tony Jaa was in the Ong, Ong Bak and Protector movies, and from what I've seen, the Protector 2 in the trailer, that movie has a ton of CGI. It looks bad, but I do still own it, so I'll still get to it sometime. I still haven't seen the Protector 1, but this film was directed by Ikechai Rukrumtham. I might have fucked that up. But I think he did a decent job with the directing, and I do think he added something that quite a few action movies I notice lack, which is a bit more realism in parts. This film is about human trafficking, and I did want to touch on a lot of critics hated on the use of it for the story. They were like, oh, it's just there to fuel the revenge portion of the movie. Which, yes, that is partly true. But they also said, oh, it doesn't stop the director from shoehorning in nudity. Do these people not understand what human trafficking is? The selling of mostly young women and children. There's gonna be nudity to make the point that this is a wrong thing. It's never meant to be sexy. Whenever you see these people who are in this trade naked in the film, it never felt to me like, I'm not even gonna touch on the whole term male gaze. Like, a male director can't shoot a female unless he's sexist, or shoot a female on film naked unless he's sexist or wants to have sex with her. I don't want to hear that shit. It did not come off that way to me in the slightest. It came off as the director was trying to say the quiet part out loud and really just get it out there that this is a horrible thing and people need to wake up to this shit that is still going on. And I commend him for that. And this is also Dolph Lundgren's brainchild. Basically, he wrote it with some people. Written by Dolph Lundgren, Steven Elder, and Gabriel Darick. I'm not sure who those other 2 guys are, but I do know that Dolph was going to direct it, and he has directed some films before. He directed The Defender, which I thought was decent, and Command Performance, which I thought was good. He's also directed The Russian Specialist, aka I can never remember the other name of it. Whatever. Russian Specialist, and he did Diamond Dogs, he's done quite a few films directing wise. More recently, he did Castle Falls, which I thought was pretty damn good. I know some people said it needed more action. I do think a little bit more action would have helped, but I mean, I didn't think it was too little action. I think the story was kind of the main point of the film. But yeah, this film, I know I'm kind of going on tangents, but yeah, my whole point was the people who hated on the movie for the whole, oh, they're showing nudity. How are you supposed to get the point across that this stuff is happening if you don't at least show some of it? That's like saying that's kind of like how people talk about funny games and how it's like, oh, you audience, you're supposed to you love seeing violence, so let's kill this family in front of you and make you like waste your time. I still don't understand Michael Haneke. I don't know if I'll ever watch another film of his because funny games piss me off so much. But I don't get that sentiment. It came off as artsy bullshit, which I'm not into, nor will I ever understand. But like that, like, how do you have an anti-violence message? It's people saying, how do you have an anti-violence message while being violent? It's like an anti-war film with violence, like how Full Metal Jacket was supposed to be. How do you do a movie on human trafficking or the skin trade without showing human trafficking taking place? That's my point. How do you do that without showing what happens to these women and children that are sold into sex slavery and just sold as slaves in general? Like, how do you show that um, without showing at least a bit of nudity? It doesn't show any children nude. Like, like I'd understand the hate for this movie if they did something like that, but they don't. They show like women who I would guess are in their mid-20s, but it's not even that bad. You see some boobs, whatever. Like, you see boobs in a lot of movies, and no one gives a shit. But they start to give a shit as soon as a Dolph Lundgren movie has boobs in it. Like as if he's the only person putting boobs in his movies. But like, I I just really enjoyed this film. It was nice to see Dolph Lundgren given a more personal project, because I do think maybe not now, he is getting a bit up there in age, but that I do think that he works at his best. Sorry, the camera. This camera has autofocus. Ugh. But I do think he's at his best when he's working with something that is near and dear to his heart, which wouldn't be all of his films, but I do like the end product here. If I had one problem with the film, really, it would be that the ending is a bit open. The main villain plot is still closed, but it ends as if they were going to do a sequel. And this film is from 2014, 8 years ago, so there's really no way they're going to get a sequel, especially given the projects Dolph Lundgren has been in recently. But I do, I would have liked to have seen what that would have been. I know that some people were not a fan of the editing in certain parts. It's not like chop editing like in the Taken sequels or Columbiana or anything Olivier Megaton directs, but it there are like fade frames, or I forgot what they're called, but like somebody will fall over and it'll be like which it is a bit of a weird editing thing, but it didn't bother me really that much. It was done so rarely. But yeah, this movie is very good to look at. It's very pretty. It looks really nice on Blu-ray. It has some pretty decent features. I will list them here. Excuse me. Behind the Action, Fighting You Can Believe talks about the practical fights, because Dolph Lundgren, Tony Jaa, and Michael Jai White can actually do their own fights. Making of Skin Trade, it was about 18 minutes of a making of. A look at director Ikechai Wickrungtham, commentary with Dolph Lundgren, interview with Dolph Lundgren, and deleted scenes. So a pretty decent amount of special features. That's what you usually get with Magnolia or Magnet releases, which is surprising why you often see these films go for cheap at Dollar General, because they're usually very interesting movies that I find pretty underrated, like God Bless America, The Wave, The Quake, all of those movies. But yeah, all in all, I do recommend the film. I gave it a 9 out of 10 or a 4.5 out of 5 on a Letterboxd, which means it did pretty much everything I wanted it to. And yeah, uh, I probably should have put this in my underrated action thrillers video, but I do have a lot of movies, so it'd be hard to kind of just pick and choose. But yeah, um, I hope everybody enjoyed the video. I will have the new camera by tomorrow. I'm not gonna upload this yet. I've got other stuff to upload. But the next video I do should be with a way better camera. Hopefully my audio isn't too bad. I'm having to use the webcam's audio because OBS is being really fucky about it. But hope y'all have a great day, and I've been Otaku Gaming HD.